Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the next installment of our 12 Monkeys journey. It's time travel tether talk time again. We've got tethered back to the podcast, and we're at a moment of reflection because we are now officially just a tad over halfway through the series, which is exciting and sad at the same time because I really don't want this journey to end. I will just say very quickly before I ask for Jesse and Karen's quick thoughts is I was really blown away by these two episodes. I thought the season finale for season two, by the way, we're talking season two finale, Memory of Tomorrow, and season three, episode one, Mother. And I thought there was so much content in, especially the finale, that it could have been a movie, but it didn't feel rushed, which is a testament to the tight writing of this series. And I just really can't wait to see where the show is going to go from here. And with that, I will point my tether to Karen and ask her what her thoughts were of these two episodes.
I was so excited. I wanted to talk about these so bad. And then behind the scenes, Lou said, I got to skip this week because I'm going out of town. And I speak for me and Jesse because he told us before we really wanted to talk about it. But the upside is that we got to rewatch it and catch things. And man, these two episodes are just crazy good. And if this show continues on the same trajectory, I can't imagine how good it's going to be coming up. So,
Jesse.
Yeah, last time we recorded, we all agreed that season 2, episode 12, Blood Washed Away. Okay, that's the season finale. Talk about a cliffhanger. This is it. And then when you get Memory of Tomorrow and Mother, but especially Memory of Tomorrow, oh, what an emotional journey they give you. Mm-hmm. They give you a happy ending and not the dirty way. And then the sacrifice of having to throw all that away for the greater good is just amazing, right? And I had never seen the movie, so I did not understand the significance of one of the guest stars. So this was just amazing. And as we talked about, I loved having the chance to, and I watched both of them back to back last night. And I'm like, wow, what a 1-2 punch. And I've talked about it on the Tuning into Sci-Fi TV Discord about how we're going through this and asking people to listen. And 3 or 4 people have said that this is by far one of their best time travel or science fiction series, period. Mm-hmm. And I still go back to, how the hell did I miss this the first time?
I think that it's funny because we've been watching this series and we've been making comments on the lead actor, and we just wish he would shave. And I don't know if the showrunners were listening to the interwebs at that time, however well developed they were back then. But this show shows that it has a sense of humor multiple times. And I was already digging the show quite a bit. But when they started that 12th episode with that gag razor, Karen, I just burst out laughing. I thought that was so funny.
Very funny.
And it just, the rest of the episode could have been a dud, and I was still sold on it. So I just thought it was so great. Karen, what did you think about that?
Yeah, pretty funny. I like that he resists it because now it's like part of his identity, I guess, that he's scruffy. And that made me laugh out loud because we've been discussing how I feel like he is super scruffy. It's grown on me. He's become a little more refined. He doesn't look dirty anymore, which is good. He mostly looks like he's exerting himself, but I thought that was super funny. And I like that the cast or the show is in on that joke, which is cool.
Jesse.
I loved that they're celebrating Christmas together and him talking about he's never done this before and maybe just his dad had given him trains, and the exchanging of gifts and how happy they are, right? And these two people have not had a lot of happiness. And to see that We got in the previous when they finally decide to quit arguing with each other and give in to their love and passion, and to see them, they've made a life together, is just very sweet. I love the joke. I love the butterfly gift that so that way you could bring, and then we get a nice payback on that. Because I was heartbroken to think that they're doing the reset.
Yep.
Where they won't have that, they won't care about themselves, and that she won't care about him anymore.
Right.
He will remember everything, but she won't. And I have talked about how my admiration of these characters has grown. I'm I've always loved, I've been very vocal about how much Amanda Schull is just one of my favorite actresses because of all the other work she's done. But Aaron Stanford is just kicking it on these. He is kicking ass and taking names. Just so much an emotional, and jumping ahead right when he goes like, she's no longer the mission. And just this sense of giving up. I now am so, I want them to be in game. I want them to somehow have a happy ending.
Shipping big time.
And I just don't know if they're going to be able to pay it off. But I do know they're going to pay off with a great story.
Yep. So diving into the episode itself, it starts off with a guest star that I totally forgot about. So I don't think I got this far in the series because it just blew me away when I saw her. And that, of course, is Madeline Stowe, who was in the 12 Monkeys movie. So we were wondering how they were going to carry the story forward because the machine's gone and there's no way for anybody to time travel anymore. So this is maybe a bit of a mulligan for the series, that you say, okay, bringing Madeline Stowe is a nice touch, and maybe there's a bit of multiversal stuff going on here, Jesse, and I'm curious what you thought about that. But the elegance of, because we were racking our brains like, how is he going to time travel because they don't have the machine anymore, and it was right in front of us, very subtle. It's just the leaves, the red forest, which makes sense because that's so volatile and it's basically time collapsing on itself. So I really liked that solution to what we were, at least I was overthinking how they were going to get around that problem. But yeah, bringing in Madeline Stowe was a very nice touch, and it smoothed over probably the shakiest point the series has done to date, and I didn't mind it at all because it just, everything else was so well established that I just really bought into it, and it was leading up to that big decision that Cole had to make. Jesse, what did you think of all that parts of the episode?
I love that actress, but I truly had not, since I've not seen the movie, I just went, wow, that's a pretty big movie star to be on the TV series. Wow, that's pretty cool. And then I also just saw on IMDb that she narrated the season 1 recap at the beginning of the Year of Monkey, that episode. Okay. So, and we did not catch that. So and the idea that it's a little bit Wizard of Oz, you had to click your heels, you had the power to go home all the time. Yep. Within you. But the idea that, and we've debated often of why is James Cole so special, right? Is he the witness? Is he the watcher? Is he this vital person in the future? And to them say that you can do this yourself was really well done. And by the premise, by the bit, right? I didn't care that we're timey-wimey. I'm like, no, I buy this. I buy it a lot. And it just really, it solidified these guys are playing at a different level as far as storytelling. And I will get on my soapbox for a minute. looking at the creative people on sci-fi TV, the suits, this is what you guys used to do, right? And why aren't you doing this again? Why this should be your purpose to do that.
Yep.
End of soapbox.
Truth.
Yeah.
Okay. Karen?
So, first of all, I thought it was amazingly cool that Madison Stowe was in this. Learning that she did the voiceover last season, that's fantastic too. But seeing her in this, and her performance was just insanely good. That blows me away. I love that she's echoing Jennifer.
Yep.
And I'm assuming she had to watch some of the series in order to get that same feel to her ravings. It was very Jennifer-esque, looking like she's crazy until she sees James. And then she still looks crazy, but she hones in on, oh, you're James Cole. She gets that kind of click where she tells him real things. And I thought that was really a great story beat, that we see her both being super crazy and also having a lot of really good information. And we had discussed, how is he going to time travel without the machine? And I thought it was incredibly believable that he could time travel because of the trackers in him and all that. So it's not like it blurred the lines of my believing and not believing. It very much was believable, which is, like Jesse said, incredible storytelling, because we buy into everything that's gone on so far. And I like that they still use the machine later on, but that James has this backup. So now we know that, hey, anyone who's been injected with this and has time traveled a bit, they can use this tea. It takes a toll, but they can use the tea to go anywhere they've been before. And I also liked where he landed in other time periods. He landed in the back of Jennifer's car, not Jennifer's car, Cassie's car. Yeah. Cassie's car. He landed in the asylum. He landed next to his friend. Why am I blanking on their names? Ramsey. He landed next to. So I thought it was very cool that they introduced this new way he can time travel, and also very believable. And Madeline Stowe had a big part in that, and her kind of reprising a role. It's not the same role, but in both the movie and the series. Pardon my cat. I just thought that was very cool.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned the sequences where James was jumping through the various time periods. And that's an aspect of the show that I've been waiting to see them take advantage of, is having them revisit things from like Back to the Future 2 did that back through the first movie, but from a different perspective. So it's good to see that. And that even becomes more so in the next episode, which we'll get into a bit later. And at the same time, they're still throwing the witness in there. And I'm still going to go with my theory that James is the witness. We'll have to see how that plays out. But what's interesting about this episode is how they take advantage of these time travel tropes to subvert the more conventional storytelling elements of like broken romances and that, like Jesse was mentioning earlier. And again, we'll get into that in the next episode. But within this episode, without knowing what was going to happen in season 3, episode 1, that moment when James jumps back to the factory with the other primary and his work buddy, and just before he shoots the guy, he says goodbye to Cassie. I just thought that was really well done. I had to laugh though when he's at the house and he said 1957 to 59, this was our home, or whatever it was. I could never print that good. I don't know how they do that, but it almost looks stenciled. But it's just, but it was just really nice to see. And when he comes back to 2040, was it 2040? And the machine's been restored, and the doctor's back as well. But now she's like a Sigourney Weaver Ripley character because she's had to protect the station by herself. I just love the dynamics of all of that. And then because the timeline has been interrupted as far as Cassie's concerned. She's still in that antagonistic mindset that they had until after the events of the trying to reverse a paradox. And just watching poor James on the other side of the room with half turned away from the conversation, just trying to process the fact that he's lost the best part of his life, was just so really well done. And yeah, Jesse, I just think that how that played out and then set up the stage for the final act of the episode was really well done.
Yeah, and we also got some really nice points. If I did not love Cassie and James together, James and Jennifer would be someone I love their connection. Mm-hmm. And when he says, "Don't call me Otter Eyes," then later she says, "I'm always going to call you Otter Eyes," right?
Yeah.
Is just so well done. It just, I love that scene. Mm-hmm. And they are earning every payoff they're giving us. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like they are cheating. I don't think they are any emotional manipulation they're doing is because of good acting and good storytelling. Right. I think this is something, there's no cheap tricks. And by the way, I am as happy to have cheap tricks as any series, like sometimes, but this is just really well done.
Mm-hmm. Karen.
Yeah, I agree. They are working for what they give us, I think, is what it feels like. And we are reaping the benefits of that work. Yeah. I think it's cool. I can't imagine anything being done better in these episodes because the story is top notch. We get great settings. We get the atmosphere of everywhere seems to fit in. Like their house, the factory, that every place that we see in these episodes is what we imagine in our head they would be before we see it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm blown away, at least by these 2 episodes and by all the series so far. I have great hope for what comes next.
Yeah. And then the last part of the episode, once they've come back to 2040, they decide to jump to Titan to save Ramsey and everybody. And I just thought Jennifer, she had a great scene where she was trying to rally the troops. Like she was quoted Lord of the Rings, Braveheart, I think Independence Day.
Independence Day, yeah.
Yes,
and,
she did.
And Bill and Ted.
Yeah. Excellent to each other.
Yeah, and how happy were you because of Station 11, the Independence Day, right? Because it made me flash back to that scene in Station 11. Yeah, Jennifer is just amazing. Be excellent to each other. Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was so funny. So funny.
Her pop culture knowledge is top notch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I forgot to mention this off the top of the episode, but I think the last time we recorded, I mentioned that Terry Matalas, the showrunner, was going to be on the Shuttle Pod show. I don't know if you guys watched that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
It was slightly spoilerish about 12 Monkeys, more about what to expect in the terms of guest stars. But he mentioned that he wrote most of the series. He just got in a zone and he wrote it all, but it was actually called Splinter. And when he presented it to Sci-Fi Network, it says, "We're trying to do something with 12 Monkeys. Can we rework this and make it about the 12 Monkeys brand name?" And that's how this show came to be. But initially, the original concept for the show was going to be called Splinter. So I just thought that was really interesting.
I also noticed that I need to see that because I guess he mentioned that one of the most popular characters wasn't the original pitch. The headline didn't say who it was, so I'll have to look for that.
Okay.
I love the name of that episode, hoisted by his own Picard.
Yeah.
Of the Shuttle Pod show.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, veteran 12 Monkey fans, if you're not into Star Trek, which would be hard to believe that there's no overlap between the two, but definitely check out that episode. In general, that show does really get some really great guest stars in general, so it's well worth checking out. So now we get into this whole Titan thing, and on my rewatch, because of the Titan, I'm going, I know what a Titan is, but why are they referencing it in the show? And a little research, in case you've forgotten your Greek mythology, the Titans were the elder gods before the more established gods that we are aware of, like Zeus and so forth. And the leader of the Titans was Cronus, who is the master of time.
Master of
I
Time.
thought that
Mhm.
was very apropos. And then I said Cassandra, her name is very,
Greekish.
and she is the daughter of Priam, and she is endowed with the gift of prophecy, but fated never to be believed. So I think we've seen that play out a little bit in the series, and I'm just worried about what it could portend for the, the remainder of the series, but we'll have to see. So anyhow, we get the assault on Titan, and then we find out that Titan itself is a time machine as well, much like the splinter machine that we're used to at the lab. And some interesting things start happening there beyond, of course, almost all the characters are rescued, except for poor Deacon. I don't know if this is the end of him or not. I certainly hope not, but it will be interesting to see how that plays out. And over the course of the action in these scenes, everybody's gone off to different places, and I will let the two of you discuss those and pick and choose the ones you want to talk about and leave the ones for the other to talk about. But needless to say, this sequence was used to plant a lot of new seeds, and it'll be interesting to see how they play out in the next season. So I'm going to go to you, Karen, on this. Which of the characters do you want to talk about? You must be muted.
Are we talking about the second episode now?
No, we're still in this one.
Still in the first one. Yeah, I do want to talk about Deacon. His arc has been super interesting to me. He was very one-note villain kind of guy. Interesting, but definitely just straight villain. And he very slowly became a character that you can like, which, I mean, again, it's the power of their storytelling to make you like this dude. And in the end, and I don't know whether it's the end of him or not, but at least in the end of this version of him, he sacrifices himself for the group. And that would have never happened before Cassie, probably. And I'm assuming his love for Cassie is what helped motivate him. And I just feel like this is a character that I want to see come back. And I also would love to know more about where he would have gone if he would have lived.
Anybody else you want to talk about, or is that it? Before I give it to Jesse.
And also, I love the transformation that we get with Katarina, that she's become that badass, and we see that change in her. They show flashbacks of it where she gets taken and then she's shooting without, oh my God, I'm shooting people. And then all of a sudden it's, I'm blowing your head off. I don't care anymore. And then we see her with the dog, which I think is that we see that she's hardened. And then we see the dog, which makes her human again.
Right.
And it's a very cool way to show how her character has changed, but she's still Jones. She's still that person inside. I also dig that they show that because Katarina has the trackers, whatever, I don't know what they're called, the serum, that she's taken the serum, that she remembers what happened, that the station got absorbed by this red cloud. And when they change it, she kind of remembers, she gets an echo of it. And I thought that was nice to see as well. A good continuity beat. Yep. So yeah, very, very good. I have nothing but props for these couple of episodes, honestly. And all the acting was crazy good.
Jesse.
So I am loving Hannah, and I want to see more of Hannah. When we get to the second episode we're discussing, she gets more of a part. And in fact, she was so impressive in that second episode. I said, did they recast her? So I went back to IMDb and I went, no, okay, this was just her. So I love that it was so well done. Ramsey is being a little bit obsessive
Mhm.
but I get it.
Yeah.
That's where
He takes an interesting turn.
yeah, he does. That's really interesting. And the idea, we go back to James, and the reason James and Cassie could live in the past is they honestly believed that they fixed it, right? And we're
Yep.
stuck anyway, and
Yep.
the future has been fixed, right? Because
Yep.
we're not, and then to see that and having to make that sacrifice gave us a great moment. And then I love seeing the scene where we saw everyone die because there's an army waiting.
Mhm.
And then when James is like, they go, oh, wait, we can time travel without the time travel to go and save them, is once again a really nice use of time travel to undo what happened.
Mm.
And that comes significant in when we get to next episode, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Really,
and
really good.
what about what happened to Ramsey after he left Titan?
Yeah.
Oh, with Olivia in the forest.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
And-
was mind blowing that
Right,
she comes back.
to see the striking woman, right? The older,
Yep.
Mhm.
Elegant.
now
Yep.
older, and we're
Yep.
like, we're going to take you to your son,
Who must
and we
be a teenager by now,
Right.
because she's got gray hair. Right?
Yeah, so we aren't. I assume that's a great cliffhanger,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
where they're going, and there is so many different storylines that are all working together
Mhm.
that you want to spend time with all of them. And I did want to stress, you're absolutely right, Karen. Deacon is just, I love when characters are a little bit deep and a little bit different. And
Mhm.
Top Stash Wish was one of the favorite things of Picard season 3.
Yep.
And to see his journey, and it could be, okay, cliche, love of a good woman redeems the man. And it's just, instead, he is still cutthroat and still very willing to do what needs to be done, but there is a softer side to him and a thing, and it makes it for a more complex character.
And what about Jennifer?
Oh, she's so good.
What
I
happened to
love
her?
Jennifer so much. Yeah.
Where'd
so
she go?
Oh
where
yeah.
the hell? Okay, I'm sitting there going, now, and once again, since I've not seen the movie, I go later. I read a synopsis, and they said that was a nice homage to the movie. So
Mm.
I guess I'm gonna have to watch the movie. And I've been debating, I'm like, how much would the movie spoil what's happening with the TV series?
It's different.
It's quite
Okay.
different. Yeah.
Okay,
You're
so
good.
okay, and okay, I'm gonna jump ahead, right? I'm sorry. You're trying to keep us on track, Lou, and I can't help it.
That's okay.
She's in that trench. She's trying to speak French.
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 Where's
And
the
then-
telephone in the
Yeah,
toilet?
and the toilet.
So
And
good.
then when she comes back, and now I gotta learn German. And that fantasy sequence of her doing 99
since the balloons. Yeah.
She sounds perfect. And in her mind, right, all the red balloons popping because
Yeah.
it's someone just shooting them,
Yeah.
and they're all she's crazy. I like her. It was just hilarious.
Yep.
She is the MVP of this series. Every time I talk to her, I love her.
Yeah, she's
know?
so good.
Yeah. And then
So good.
just the last element I want to talk about in the first episode is the subversion of the trope that they are not going Ramsey. Okay, James and Cassandra are not going to remember that last year. She starts remembering about a caterpillar turning to a butterfly. The first time I watched it, I go, geez, that's awfully convenient. But then when I watched it again, I realized it's because they're in Titan. It's the time machine. So all the time streams, all the multiverses are converging there as it's getting ready to jump. So again, a very elegant way of making that work. I just thought that was just fantastic. And of course, that all comes together in the next episode. But I just thought like I said, there's 3 acts in this episode, but this episode could have been a movie. There was just so much ground cover, and it never felt rushed. It was just the right pace. They had a sense of humor. James had that funny bit with the razor. Jennifer with her bits on the car with the speeches. Katerina turning into Sigourney Weaver. Ripley with the gun, and then the dog. It was just all so well done.
And the jumping around.
The jumping around was just amazing.
So much stuff in that.
So much stuff in this episode that, it was just well done. I'm going to just quickly go around the table on this episode before we start the next one, because if there's anything that hasn't come up that you want to mention at this point, Jesse, is there anything else you wanted to mention, or do you think we've pretty well covered it all now?
I think we covered it.
Okay.
Just a wonderful way to wrap up this second season and set us up for, I don't know if they knew, did they pitch, okay, we've got a 4-year arc, or
definitely
what?
Feels like it did. Because of the dialogue in the next episode,
it feels like it is,
Plus by the pacing too that we're seeing, it'll probably play out in that time. I do want to mention also, Jesse brought it up, that little sequence where she's like doing a walking on sunshine kind of thing, Jennifer, when she's singing 99. And I remember that when that song came out, radio stations played it both ways. Played the English version and the German version, and I had that memorized like Jennifer did. I can't say it now because I don't know what the words mean or anything.
Right.
But that was great. It just felt like a throwback to my past as well. And the character is too young to have experienced that when it came out on the radio, because that's my generation. She's not Generation X.
But she's jumped around in time a bit. She can see
all
possibilities.
Yeah, so it's her brain thing.
Do we know when in actual timeline when she was born? I'm trying to figure out.
Well, in the main timeline, it's 2016, and she's in her early 20s. So she's definitely, what is she, like a
90s, 80s?
Late Generation Z?
Yeah.
Early millennial kind of time frame. But, and also, her.
So 99 Balloons would have been out in 84.
Yeah.
And so that would have made her.
Before she was born, essentially. No, it's because she sees all time.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So she wasn't, or she was very young, a baby, right?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, it's because her brain crosses over time zones and all that. It's because they're in Titan that Cassie is getting those visions, but it's also because she has whatever those injections were. And it's echoed when we see that Jones has the same kind of thing where she remembers bits and pieces because she's not the one that did the jumping, but she still sees both timelines. And I love that we see it in both Cassie and Jones. We see it in both of them in these episodes in different ways, which Cassie sees that they had a good life that was erased, and Jones sees that it was bad that she died, and then sees that was subverted. So a very cool little, I would say, parallel, but it's totally different. They had the same outcome, but in a different way. So
cool. Very good. Alrighty, let's move on to the next episode, and season 3, episode 1, Mother.
So good.
And general impressions for me of this episode is usually when a show gets into, especially these sort of genre shows and that, and maybe just I'm thinking of Chuck, but because you get into later seasons, they tighten up the budget because the ratings are going down and they don't want to spend the money. But I have to say that the previous episode and this one, the money's on the screen. There's the shot there. It's like a Last of Us shot when he climbs up on that overturned train. You can see like down the street, all the ruin of the buildings and that. And now we're in 2163. And even in the previous episode where they had like the stop motion stuff, like there was smoke hanging in the air and all that. So they were just like, this kind of reminds me of like the Dead Zone TV series time period where they're always freezing frames and moving around 3-dimensionally through the scene and that. So the money is definitely on the screen, and they have like beautiful costumes for Cassie scenes. Like, it's very much like a Renaissance. They're all in these like kind of robes and habits and whatnot. And so I just thought from a production standpoint that the show is really holding up well, and it just really looked good. But again, man, there's just so much going on here. Two guest stars of note, one more recent than the other, but we have, and I'm looking at his name before I don't get it right.
Farhan Tahir.
Farhan Tahir, who we best know from 2009 Star Trek, the opening sequence, as he was the captain of the USS Kelvin. And then most recently to see Hannah Waddingham with black hair, not gray or white, as Magdalena. And of course, we all know her better from Ted Lasso as Rebecca Welton.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a kick as well.
And apparently Game of Thrones, which I didn't know she was on.
She wasn't that.
Yeah. Shame. Yes.
Yeah, but when I saw that, I didn't know her yet.
No, I didn't.
And now
either.
I know her.
I only knew because they mentioned that covering Ted Lasso. Yeah.
So again, some amazing guest stars. And as Jesse mentioned, Hannah gets to play a bigger role in this episode as well. Jesse, I'll start with you. What's your overall thoughts of this episode?
I adore Ted Lasso. Like many other people, it came at the right time in my life. And I am one of the few people that that's not true. Unlike others, I was not disappointed in the third season. I was happy with them, and I do want more life in that world. But to see Hannah Waddingham play this evil character, and in her mind, a good character, right? She's just trying to protect the baby.
Very Nurse Thatcher from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's
was
Nest.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then to also see, as you talk about Malik, right? The Farhan
Tahir.
Yeah. He is such a great character actor. He brings just a very strong set feeling to the set. This almost feels like we've rebooted the series.
Mm-hmm.
Almost,
right? Like this, I realize if you just take those parts of it where they are trying to the reveal that the witness is the unborn child from two time travelers, and how that something that they loved was born out of love and togetherness is going to possibly be used manipulating. Great subplot. And what a wonderful little glitch that Cassie jumps off, right? I'm going to kill myself versus being mused. And they use time travel, and it's a one-way trip, right? Because you can't, and thank you for your sacrifice and do all that, was just this nice little twist that if you had just had that story in the episode, we all would have asked, hey, why aren't they going with anyone else? But you would have felt satisfied. That was a brilliant story of how everyone is working toward this cult and believing what they need to be done, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Karen.
I was taken aback when I saw Hannah Waddingham show up in this episode.
Really, eh?
But pleasantly taken aback, if that makes sense. I love her. And Ted Lasso, she has her own journey from bad guy to good guy throughout the series.
Yeah.
And to see her in this role, it was like the beginning of Ted Lasso amped up 100,000% because she wants vengeance and all that in Ted Lasso. And to see that kind of dark side to her was really great. And you mentioned the scope of everything, that they spend money on things, not just the scenes of that desolate future, but Titan in its scope is huge, with lots of corridors and rooms, and the costumes and everything about Titan just screams big budget to me. And then we get all the other stuff too. We get the reshooting of scenes, and because they repeat things. They repeat the scene where she's eating in her room after she jumps off the platform. And I really love the scope of these scenes and how big it all feels. It's like movie storytelling. It's huge and lush, and just it makes you feel like you're immersed in where everything is. And to see Hannah Waddingham and Farhan Tahir in this as bad guys amp things up even more. They're both great actors. Farhan Tahir is a bad guy in a million different things.
Yeah.
He plays the heavy. He's been in Chuck, Star Trek, just a million different things. So it was cool to see both of them. And you just know that it's going to be menacing. And I didn't think anyone could be creepier than Tom Noonan, but Hannah Waddingham does it in this. Tom Noonan is a caricature almost as the pallid man or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He's kind of the front, but he's the you think of a cult leader and he's it, right? Or whoever is pushing the cult forward. So I loved all the performances in this episode, and it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, I want to jump in because I agree with you, Karen. I actually was thinking he is the least interesting and least, yeah, I guess the complex is right. Like you almost seem like, God, he's letting us down as an actor. But
right.
I
think that's a choice, though.
I think that's the other two, that he is the almost the figurehead running the cult with the other people behind him, whether it was his sister originally or now these others, where they're the true, and is more interested in the flash and being there versus doing the heavy lifting, and they're behind the scenes taking care of that. So I do think it's a choice, but I love that idea of that there's so much more depth of people behind him when he's just this almost parrot of, oh, the witness is safe and doing all these other things.
Right.
Yeah.
He's the indoctrinator, I think. And they've set him up to be that second fiddle or third fiddle kind of person, in that his sister, Olivia, was the one in charge of everything. And he was a second fiddle, a right hand sort of thing. He wasn't in charge. When he wanted to be in charge, it didn't really pan out for him. So now he's taken this role again. And I think it's interesting in its uninterestingness, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but
it does.
I like to see that his character is still being held down a little bit, but he seems satisfied in that role. He was born to play second fiddle to a woman kind of thing. Yeah. And there's also huge parallels between Olivia, the old Olivia, and Magdalena, where they play a very similar character, but in very different ways. Yeah. We thought that Olivia was the sinister figure, and Magdalena has amped that a million times. She is much more sinister than Olivia ever was.
Yeah, I have no way of knowing this, but I'm guessing that Metellus was inspired by Louise Fletcher on One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest as Nurse Mildred Ratched, because it's just echoes so strongly. But and he might not have had a big a part to play in the episode, but he still has that physical presence. Like he's got a presence on screen. He's one of those actors that doesn't really have to say anything. He's just there, and he stands out on the screen. So he's got that ability to do that. And I thought he was well cast for the role that he played.
Even if he doesn't do a lot, he's a badass.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right?
Yes,
yeah. He's got that.
Yeah. Yeah. Which
I know
made
how
his
to
casting
fight.
in the Star Trek movie an interesting choice. But, but it works quite well, actually. Man, there's so much in this episode. But we'll have to start with James and Cassie, as they are our main characters. And James is like a rabid dog, as they keep telling him in the episode, and he is very driven to find Cassie, and he's jumping all over 2163, leaving these markers. And it was just the moment he found a signal that told him that Titan was near. I'll forego the fight a little bit that he had with Hattie. I thought that was well done as well, but the not Hattie, what did I call her? What's the daughter's name? Hannah. It was well done, and I like the fact that he ended up with sticking her with the needle that she was supposed to stick in him. I thought that, and again, that was well set up because you suspected it, but then she turned her arm, which was off camera, and then you see it there, and that was pretty funny. So I liked it quite a bit. But then we get this interesting confrontation with a character who reminded me a lot of Ghost from the Marvel movies, Ant-Man and the Black Widow movie. So that was interesting. And he does get to Titan. He sees Cassie, but before he can basically just throw his life away, this figure comes back again and takes him back to the hotel in the future in the lobby. And then we have this amazing conversation between the two Coles. And should I say they were bookends? No, I don't know. I don't want to say that. But the conversation that they have is a wonderful timeline of where the character has come from, and yet puts a stake in the ground for us as viewers to say, this guy's going to go through a lot more still. And I just thought that, hey, asshole, it's the new asshole.
Yeah.
That was great. Jesse, I want you to talk about that scene. And I'm pretty sure that we know that the show knows how long it's going to be, because he tells the younger Cole that you're only halfway through your journey, and he's got a rough road ahead of him.
Yeah, I caught that too. And that's when I said, I wonder, did they know? Because we know that it ended up going 4 seasons. It was wonderful. First, he stayed scruffy. He never did. It would have been interesting to have him shave.
Or with a beard.
Yeah, or
with
just
a full
it would have
beard
said like, hey, and it was, you have to be careful what you tell your previous self, because you don't want to change everything. And also this is where you get the paradox of, I told him what I needed to tell him because I told him previously what I told him. And so there's that circle.
Bootstrap paradox.
Yeah. And I love seeing them together. You love that, hey, asshole, I'm future asshole or whatever, was just beautiful.
Yep.
And the idea that, we talked a little bit about Cole and Katrina, their arguments, right? Like, you're not eating, you're not sleeping, which I always think, okay, you have a time machine, go eat a good meal, go sleep 10 or 12 hours, and then let's start again.
Gonna jump to the same place.
Yeah.
Right?
And all about the mission.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care about the mission. At this point, this is all about just trying to save Cassie. I can't, the same as Ramsey didn't care about anything but saving his son. Katrina only cared about saving her daughter. So this is certainly on par with what we've seen it pass in the show. Their discussion back and forth, the whole idea of you need to help Jennifer, and you're wondering, at least I was, is Cassie dead in the future? And then when we get that reveal showing that she isn't, and they are at least somewhat together, if maybe not romantically, at least comrades, gave you like, okay, we know where the end game is. We don't know the total everything about it, and how they're going to get there, was just a really nice point in time. And then we get that he splinters back and he gives her the newspaper clipping, right? This is where we need to go. And she's no longer the mission. Right. And this almost giving up was just really, we're resetting the show in our 3rd year. We now have Cassie she's in labor. We don't know what's going to happen. You hear it ends with that baby crying in black. Great way to end. And then with Cole trying to figure out what he's going to do. Just, gosh, what a good way to set up this new season.
Yep.
Yeah. I loved that scene where the two Coles talk to each other. Like you said, asshole, I'm future asshole. What a great line. That the person that they used in place of Cole when they shot the scenes is Jeff Scoville, his actual stunt double.
Mm.
So they used him and then they reshot it with the actor.
Yep.
So we get that body double. And I think that's a cool way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They did it that way on Orphan Black as well, because she had to be in the room with 3 or 4 other of her clones.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was so well done. You couldn't see any. Yeah, it was so believable that they were in that room together.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess it was a room in the past, but now it's like this open air thing. Just super cool. And like Jesse said, with that bootstrap paradox, I told him what I needed to tell him because I remember I needed to tell him that. And I remember me telling myself that. It's a whole mind F. And I like him saying, I didn't remember the nut tap or whatever.
Which is hard to believe.
No, I'm sure he did. It took him by surprise again.
Yeah.
And he didn't feel it the first time. He was the one delivering it. So him actually feeling it probably was like, oh, I can't believe I did that to myself. I loved that now we have, okay, not only is there a way for him to time travel without the machine, now he can be in a paradox.
Yep.
Yeah. And they say it doesn't prevent them altogether, but it helps, which is cool. We know that there are limitations, but there is this technology. And that it's also used by the bad guy, quote unquote.
Which is very interesting.
So where did the technology come from? Did they work together at some point? And it's also dropped that, and I meant to mention it earlier, but that Titan is the technology that Katarina's husband developed. So does he have, it was just a one-off line. Yeah. Does he have some involvement in this? There's so much to cover in these episodes and so many things, so many lampposts that I'm sure will come back, and a lot that I didn't notice that will probably come back. Yeah. I love that we got to watch this a couple times, that we had 2 weeks in between, and getting to know a lot about the behind the scenes of how they did this show is great.
And one of the things we didn't discuss, or if we did, I missed it, the idea that Titan is itself a time machine. It is this whole city. Yeah. And so the idea that anytime we're going to be breached or found, we just go someplace else in time.
Right.
And I think was a really, and I agree with you, we've got to see Katarina's husband sometime, I would think.
Yep.
We have seen him briefly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just really layers upon layers on this show.
And there were some other interesting lines that the older James said to him, that I'm surprised we haven't run into each other because we're on the same subway line, which is interesting. And then when Cass comes out after the younger Cole has left, and she's got gray hair or a gray forelock anyhow, and then she says that there's another way, and he says no. So we know that the younger Cole is going to be faced with that decision. Maybe he'll take the other fork. We don't know. So they've nicely set that up as well. And the older Cole also dropped a name, Ethan, that we don't know who that is. So that will be interesting as well. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. But I just thought that was a great scene. And as you said, Jesse, it's changes the dynamic of the show in quite a bit. Like, we're hardly even talking about the disease anymore. But
I think
do we care? No.
That was something that I forgot to mention as well, is that the people, the fanatics, I guess the army of the 12 monkeys or whatever, the disease was just a vehicle to get time travel going. Yeah. And I think that's so cool that the thing that was the mission is just an incidental in all of this.
And then we turn to Cassie, and I'm thinking right now that this is her strongest episode in the series. At least she had the most juiciest material to play with. And her arc in this episode, to the point where she's ready to sacrifice herself to stop the whole thing, was really pretty powerful. And I just think that Amanda Scull just knocked it out of the park in this episode. It was great to see her remembering that closed off timeline that James was afraid that they would not be able to remember and share together. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out, because we obviously know they do get back together, because we saw that. So we don't know exactly when that's going to happen going forward. But given the pace of shows, that I don't think it'll be too much longer. But just the whole way those scenes were shot, especially when she was making that decision about whether or not to jump. And then we were cutting to the two Coles talking to each other, and they were going back and forth. And every time they went back and forth, it was ratcheting up what was happening with Cassie. She was making her way to the ledge in that. And I just thought that was really well shot and really well edited. So, Jesse, I just want to, you're the Amanda fan here. Why don't you tell us what you thought of this episode for her?
Yeah, she's been able to do so much. And the decision to not let her child be used by these fanatics was a tough one on her. And I thought she played it perfectly. And then when you wonder, because the implication is when they go back, she knows that, oh, wait a minute, I've already lived this, which is because of all the serums and everything that they've had, they can remember more times. But I just think she's amazing in this. And gosh, think how tough this is for Aaron and Amanda to keep track of on the script. Now, where am I in my journey? What do I know? What do I don't know? What do I feel? It just is really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Karen.
Yeah, I agree. This had to have been confusing. Although I'm assuming that when they filmed this, I'm guessing that these were put in a sequence where it would have been easier for them to play those characters. I'm hoping, at least, because playing the future Cassie is a different mindset than the Cassie in 2160, and a future as in her life future. She may not be in 21 whatever.
Right, I gotcha.
But the differences between those future versions of them and the younger present day, I hate to say present day, but to us, in their lifetime, their present day, very different. The Cassie in Titan I think if she understood the ramifications earlier, she would have fought back earlier, like when she was first taken, maybe. But she realizes when Magdalena comes to see her and things are like, you're going to be presented today. And she realizes, hey, I really need to get out of this, because they're going to take my baby and they're going to make him or her into this thing, this monster that has caused all these problems, that caused the plague, and they want to end time. And I see that feeling of desperation. First, she is like a silent protester. Then she becomes desperate because she realizes that she needs to try and stop it. She attacks people in that corridor, and then she kills herself. And I expected her not to die, but I didn't know how they were going to do it.
Right.
And having Magdalene use that personal time machine thing to warn herself, that was a great way to do it. I really loved that kind of juxtaposition of their different mindsets. And then we see the future Cole and Cassie, who are at least working together again. We don't know whether it's the end of all of this or whether it's just further down the road. Right. We do know that they've been through a lot of shit. So
yes.
I loved how they played these, and all in one episode, we get 3 or 4 different versions of these characters, which is very cool.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to know behind the scenes because I don't know if Metalis had all the scripts done for the series when they started shooting, or if how much, but you would think there would be at times that would say, okay, we're shooting, this is a season 2 episode, but we need to shoot this extra scene that we're going to use in season 4 kind of thing. I don't know if they did that or not, or if they just
reshot it.
If they just reshot it and used makeup or whatever to make it look like that. But because so far what we've seen, they've just been using makeup to do that. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes forward, how that's playing out.
They very well could have used the actual scene, like when Cassie's walking to the car, that could have been recycled scene.
Yeah.
And him in the back seat.
An alternate take that they didn't use in the
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because of coverage or something.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. A different camera angle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I thought of that as I'm watching it. I'm thinking, I wonder how they did that.
Yeah. The only thing that puzzled me was when the two Magdalenas were talking to each other, the younger one said, "Thank you for your service," and the other one seemed to kill herself. Like,
she did.
Yeah. So because I don't get why she had to do that though. Like,
my
she didn't have any other.
She can't time travel back to where she was, so therefore she needs to kill herself so that there's not two of them in the same timeline.
Right, because
she had the device for the.
But she is forcibly changing the future.
Yeah.
She's making sure her previous self is making a different decision. Yeah. So she can't go back because
she's always made that decision though, hasn't she?
Not in this case, she didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
That version of her
because the Farhan character said, "Are you ready?" So he knew what she could do.
Yeah,
okay.
I think
I'll take that for now, but we'll see.
Yeah, there's no future to jump to in her case.
Yeah, because they've changed an alternate timeline.
Okay. All right.
By the way, I've been looking and I cannot find, so this is a shout out to someone on Twitter that said that they gave us a spoiler that we find the answer to the cigarette question in the very last episode of the series.
Okay, yeah, that was.
Did you see that on Twitter?
Captain, what's his name?
Captain
he was
Mediocre.
Mediocre, yeah, he was a big Chuck fan. We used to communicate a lot.
So I thought that was very nice of him.
Yeah,
he was like, "Have y'all asked that question?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, we brought it up all the time."
Well, we wondered where she was getting them from. Yeah, and that ties into something that the show is starting to really pound home now: is that the end is the beginning, and the beginning is the end. And I understand conceptually what they're saying, but I'm not quite sure when is the exact beginning of this time loop. That's what
we don't know yet,
which we haven't nailed down yet, or maybe we have, but we just don't know it yet. But that will be interesting to find out.
Jennifer has jumped to the furthest point back, right?
And that's a lovely segue to my next discussion point, which is while she's back there, she sees 4 figures with the exact same device, and she calls them the 4 horsemen. And she realizes that whatever we're watching in this series, the mythology starts there, at least so far as we know to this point. That's where we're being told that now this is where everything really started from. So that was, again, the show answers questions but raises new ones. So that was really an interesting thing to see, and it'll be interesting to see where we go from there. And also, the Cole talking to the Cole is from a character perspective, is the only way that makes sense for Cole to stop looking for Cassie and to divert his attention to Jennifer, because his older Cole tells him that she is the linchpin that we need to rescue her, because she's got the knowledge in her side of her head that will resolve this issue. So I thought that was all really well done. And again, the show is just doing a great job with the character actions being made understandable because of the proper laying of the track for character motivations. Jesse, what do you think about all of that?
Yeah, how well done, right? If he was never going to give up, and dog with a bone, right?
Yep.
I have a purpose, and only by stepping in himself saying, look, you got to do this.
Yeah.
I know more than you. I can't tell you too much, but what I can tell you is ultimately you've got to do this. And then I go back to that great scene at the end he's not happy with that answer,
No.
but he is believing it.
Yeah.
And so now then we're in a very weird place at the beginning of the season, right? With everyone gone.
And Deacon really gone.
Yeah. And I hope he's not gone.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's not going to be, but yeah, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Karen.
Yeah. The Four Horsemen thing
Yeah.
creeped me out.
Yes, I agree.
Yep.
And I think it's very fitting that Jennifer sees these as like a flashback, even though it doesn't look like it's happened yet. And I love seeing those time threads in her head when we see those kind of things. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Seeing the Four Horsemen, it looked like they were in the show Umbrella Academy. They got their their suits on and bowlers. Everything.
Yeah.
But they have the time travel harnesses, and they're carrying what looks like a casket.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that from several different perspectives, where they're looking at it, they're carrying it. It's super intriguing to see that she has that flashback or not a flashback. It looks like a flashback to me, but it's not. It's an echo of whatever. And again, it's like such a novel way to drop in a plot thread that we get this because she sees all times. Mm-hmm. And it's a way to tell us something else is happening in another timeline that we're going to see at some point. So it's like dropping this thread in a way that is 100% in character and believable and all that. And that it's a totally different thing from what we've seen before. I just, it's so good. So and good.
The other thing is Jennifer is not the most reliable narrator.
No.
Right.
So
very
that
unreliable
makes it even more confusion, because what is she seeing?
Right.
Is she misinterpreting something? And the way they filmed that, so it was not very clear, and there helps feed that. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what's going on. I think I know what's going on, but I'm not.
Yeah, when we see it really happen on screen, I'm assuming it's going to look real, like they're real people. They're not wearing these weird suits, and we're going to see it look normal through the eyes of a normal person. But she sees it in that like window of crazy person, because everything is all mixed up in her brain and she's seeing all these different things. So she makes it into a certain sinister looking thing because she feels like that's a bad place. So she puts it in that context. And when we see it, we're going to see it with the veil lifted, which, I mean, I'm so anticipating seeing what these four horsemen are. It's so cool to see her say something in her own way, and then we get to see it play out in a normal looking way. Just very cool.
And so, since we don't know what's going on, and are they going to have character actors playing the Four Horsemen? Are they going to be unknowns? Are they going to do something?
Are they people we've always seen?
Yeah, or we've seen. Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to see, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it'll be, because I'm sure they're going to subvert our expectations, because for me right now, I don't know how you guys are feeling about this, but I think the show is trying to lean pretty hard on the fact that the witness is the child of Cassie and Cole.
Yes.
But I'm sticking to my guns that it's Cole because that somehow that has to tie in with the end is the beginning and the beginning is the end.
Right. And who is that baby?
Yeah.
They've tied in people from the past and the future and all this. Is she giving birth to someone else who's already been seen?
Yeah.
Because he went back in the past, or it's crazy.
Yeah. And the baby's born, and how much interaction is Cassie gonna have with the baby? Don't know.
Great questions, right? Have we already met the baby in a different
context?
Light, that it's a different, and do they hide it in the past? Do they keep it? Where could it be? I don't think that James could be the father and the child. I don't think that's going to happen.
No,
That
I
would
hope
be a little
not.
creepy. Yeah, that'd be a little creepy.
I'm my own
Yeah,
grandpa. Do you know
yeah.
that song?
But
Yeah.
it could be someone else that
Yes.
it's going to be interesting to see, right?
Is it Cole's
Absolutely.
dad? Is
Yeah,
it? Who
yeah.
could it be?
Yeah.
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 And I was going to say something else and now I forgot. I really love that they've tied all these things in together and that it makes for a good guessing game in our head.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
oh, have we seen this person before? Are they someone else? Are they someone's mother? Are they someone's father?
Yeah.
It's very cool. I love it.
Yeah. Great. Okay, go around the table for our last thoughts on these 2 episodes. And Jesse, do you have anything else you wanted to add that we haven't covered or you really wanted to mention?
I can't think of anything. I
Okay.
already talked about my love of the music video from Jennifer.
Yeah.
That was so well done. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to where we are going with this cult. And we have a second cult now. Like, as you got the 12 monkeys are secondary right now. Will they come back again? What do we need to do? Are we going to see more of Hannah Waddington, which is always a great thing?
Please.
Yeah, I assume we're doing the next 3
or 4?
in our rewatch.
4.
4. Great.
Right.
Okay, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay. Karen?
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to watching them today.
I'm glad that you'll be able to. I felt bad about going away.
No, it's great.
Today, I'll watch them today and next Saturday, most likely, because these are really easy to rewatch.
Yep.
And I've gotten to the point where I have to physically check to make sure I'm not going past where.
Right.
Because I really want it to just roll over into the next episode. So I have to go back to Hell's Kitchen or whatever else I'm watching.
Okay, before we wrap up, I believe we have some feedback.
We do.
That's
and this is
cool.
from Davia Archibald.
Okay.
Which is awesome. I love that we're getting feedback.
And
they say, I've been enjoying your review of 12 Monkeys along with Continuum. It's the best time travel show, in my opinion. Yeah, Continuum wasn't bad.
Yeah, I agree.
I didn't like it as much as 12 Monkeys.
Yeah, there was decisions the main character made that kind of turned me off.
Yeah.
And it isn't as a tight a story.
Agreed. Not as immersive either.
Yeah.
I greatly enjoyed it when it originally aired. 12 Monkeys was not treated well by the network. I believe each season aired over 1 week after the first season.
Really?
Wow.
It is a good way to watch it, though. But back in those days, like, how would you be able to record it? I guess there was DVRs, but yeah.
Yeah, there were DVRs then. I think we were just on the edge of being able to stream stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could watch it on Amazon at that point because Amazon always had movies you could watch and stuff, or when it started being a technology. I've enjoyed. Oh, and the below is from your earlier reviews. I thought I'd sent earlier, but I guess not, as I've been busy at work. Davia says, I have enjoyed your reviews of Station 11 and the English. The 3 of you always have such insightful discussions. Thank you. We try.
We try.
Yep. These episodes have caused me to rewatch both series added to the rewatch list.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
Station 11. I watched it as it aired back in 2021. While I appreciated it, especially during the pandemic, there seemed to be something missing. For me, as someone who dislikes Shakespeare, I'm turned off by the centrality of Shakespeare in this story. Yeah, that's a fundamental thing. I don't understand why the Traveling Symphony doesn't do several plays by several authors. The obsession with Shakespeare makes these characters come off as elitist, especially the hotel group. What kept me coming back was Kirsten and Siobhan. Yeah, I agree. They were the most intriguing characters. And I think the real life stuff was most intriguing to me about it, right? Not so much the Shakespeare.
And I think, to step in here, I think because the story itself was very Shakespearean is the reason why.
Yeah,
but
they wanted an echo.
I agree. You seemed like you would have done Arthur Murray, or not necessarily Death of the Salesman, which is depressing, but something, Streetcar Named Desire, or just this other, you would have had different plays. Could have been good. Yeah, but the series worked since them doing so much Shakespeare.
Yeah, and I think because it was based on a Shakespearean trope, they were taking that as a mini mirror of the series and using it. And it worked like that. I get it. I like some Shakespeare and I hate some Shakespeare. They didn't do much ado. Benedict and Beatrice are my favorite characters. Okay. Now they say, going to the English, I enjoyed that this wasn't what I feared about quote unquote Westerns. The few I've seen are generally about strong white men conquering the West, fighting through the elements and the barbaric engines. I came across this series in December, shortly after it was released, and binge watched it in 2 days. I was so thrilled to see women and Indigenous Americans portrayed as strong, smart human beings with individual personalities, desires. Agreed. I love that part of the show. And I think it was groundbreaking as far as Westerns go. So good. I loved how reveals were done over the series. Her son's father killed her son. Eli was sold to the good guy. The employee outgrew the boss. Syphilis. I was sad when Cornelia turned her face when the picture was being taken. I cried from the scene where the sheriff insisted Eli and Cornelia separate. I was in full-on shock with the tears flowing when White Moon was in England. This show has stayed with me.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree. The English was tear-jerking. And as far as Westerns go, it's completely different from any other Western I've known, which is probably one of the reasons why we decided to cover it, because so novel and interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I love John Ford's Westerns, and I absolutely understand the criticism of that. I would have missed this series if you had not suggested it, Lou, and I would have been sad I missed it. Yeah. That was really,
and I was
well
in
done.
Between. It was on my to be watched list, but I kept putting it off. I'm really glad that we decided to tackle it.
This is a story that benefits and hurts from being on streaming, because I don't think it would have been made without the streaming, because the need for content. But unfortunately, there's so much streaming that this one got buried, and I don't think it received the recognition that it's due.
Agreed. Or attention. At all.
Yes.
Like a lot of people probably just missed it.
Yep.
Yeah, so good. So that's our feedback, which is fantastic. Great. I love that we get that. And we do have a few people watching on YouTube that have mentioned things down in the comments. It's nothing, hey, I really enjoy your take on the series, which I think is cool. So we are getting feedback for that, which I really love.
Righto. Okay. So this will conclude our time talk for today. We'll be back with episodes 2 through 5 of season 3, and that includes Guardians, Enemy, Brothers, and Causality. Jeez. Sometimes you just can't talk when you say so many words in a row, right?
Absolutely.
Anyhow, I want to thank both of you, my time-traveling tethered friends, for coming back again, and I look forward to talking about this with you again next week. So where can they find you, Karen?
I'm at Alvaria on various social medias, and I have a blog, alliestuff.com, which the link you can find in my Twitter bio, and the landing page has a lot of really cool stuff, I think. So
cool. Jesse.
I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on the Twitter machine. And you can find us, as we talk about, on the same feed, Babylon 5. You can hear me talk Doctor Who on Next Stop Everywhere, and John Hyatt on Perfectly Good Podcast, and of course, Set Lusting Bruce, where I talk to music fans from around the world.
Awesome. And you can find this podcast on YouTube at Lou's Reviews, along with our Babylon 5 and other JKL media productions, and there's also some writer interviews and Stephen King podcasts. And on Twitter, I'm at Lou W. Sitzma. So that will do it for this installment. The tether is snapped. We're going back to our normal lives, and we'll see you in the next installment next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
And